Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to Listen Up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Listen Up. Just me again for the game recap tonight. Phil, unfortunately, a little under the weather, but hopefully he will be returning with me for the game recap on Saturday night against St. John's. We won't be on until later that night to recap that game versus St. John's. But tonight, the Huskies made a trip to Villanova, Pennsylvania to take on Lucy Olson and the Wildcats. Unfortunately for Villanova, Olsen only played the first 4 minutes before picking up two early fouls and taking an early seat on the bench. UConn went on an 8-0 run for the first 3 minutes of the game while Olsen was on the bench. After that, however, Villanova goes on a run of their own to close the gap to just 1 point at the end of the first quarter. The UConn defense looked good for the most part, better communication than the Notre Dame game, I would say. The offense looked good as well, until it fell kind of stagnant there at the end of the first quarter. Paige Becker started the scoring in the second quarter for the Huskies. Ashlyn Shade made a bucket as well. Ashlyn Shade, she needs to be more, continue to be more productive for UConn. Kind of had a struggling game against Notre Dame, just like most of the team did, unfortunately, during that game. But UConn is going to continue to need her down the stretch. Just her consistency scoring, as well as her deadly 3-point shot as well. Very scrappy game tonight throughout, especially in the first half. Villanova, a very physical team. Rest were letting them play for the most part. Husky offense having its troubles at times. Just standing around, it seemed like they couldn't really get a good shot. Hardly no ball movement at times. Villanova playing good basketball, though. Their offense was staying consistent. Not much was going right for UConn, to be honest, especially in the first half. Long scoring droughts, getting out rebounded. It looked like the energy and effort just wasn't there. Just like we're used to seeing, those two things that we can rely on, just didn't seem like they quite had it in the first half. Although UConn does take a 37-36 lead into the half, UConn definitely needs to make some adjustments and play a lot better in the second half, which they definitely did. But I just want to say hats off to Villanova for playing a great game tonight. They did not allow UConn to gather hardly any momentum. They didn't allow them to go on many long scoring runs. They stayed with UConn mostly for the entire game, until I'd say the end of the third, going into the fourth quarter, and for pretty much the entire fourth quarter. But UConn, just like the Notre Dame game, the pace of this game didn't really favor UConn, I'd say, until also the fourth quarter. Couldn't really get out in transition and run. Just seemed like every time this season during the recaps, when I say all these, I guess negative things about UConn, how they're playing, how they're not really playing that well. It just seems like when I write that in my notes, all of a sudden, just like that, they turn it up and play their best basketball of the night, was what happened there. At the end of during the third quarter, towards the end, their defense led to their offense going quickly, being aggressive, getting in transition a little bit, outpacing Villanova at times, and UConn opened up a 10-point lead to start the fourth quarter. Aaliyah Edwards just doing everything right for UConn in the second half, just dominating in the paint. No one on Villanova could guard her the whole night. Paige staying fairly consistent from the floor tonight. Another good game from her. Nika dishing out assists like always. I was impressed with the Wildcats' effort tonight to stick with UConn for most of the game. Probably the most competitive Big East game that we've had the whole season long in terms of UConn. Huskies did pull away by a wide margin in the fourth quarter and went on to win 81-60, which the score doesn't really indicate how close this game was in the first half. But let's look at the box score a little bit, the stats tonight. Aaliyah did lead the Huskies in scoring, finished with 22 points, just flat out, like I said, dominant inside the paint, like she has been for these past I guess for the past month, I'd say. Aaliyah Edwards absolutely going on a tear, scoring and getting these double doubles. Paige got yet another 20 plus point game tonight, scoring 21. Nika had a very good bounce back game after fouling out during the Notre Dame game. Didn't have the impact like she wanted, but very impactful tonight, scoring 12 points, racking up 10 assists. And KK Arnold had a very efficient night from the floor, shooting 5 of 6 and scoring 13 points. So I'll go over some comments here to finish off the video. And like I said, Phil will be back with me for the game recap versus St. John's. But first comment we'll go over here is from the disruptive one. He says, I've mostly felt sorry for Lucy Olson this season, not getting enough help. Obviously, I want UConn to play well in this game, but there is no scenario where I call this a bounce back game or win. I just won't. UConn out talents Villanova and should win the game easily. A strong win won't prove anything, but I want it to happen because I think it will be good for the team slash player morale. So yeah, I mean, UConn, I wouldn't say a dominant win. They definitely pulled away there in the fourth quarter. But like I said, it really, the score wasn't really an indication of how this game went. UConn struggled a lot in the first half, just kind of getting their offense to go. Like I said, it kind of struggled getting out in transition. Not a lot of steals. Defense didn't lead to offense, but total opposite in the second half, and they were able to pull away, which is definitely a good sign. But yeah, a good win tonight for sure. Definitely the most competitive Big East game, but it just doesn't seem like this season the Big East opponents can keep up with UConn. Just not enough talent all around from these opponents. But yeah, at the very least, Villanova definitely gave UConn a game for most of the night tonight. Final comment we'll go over here is from Adam Edmonds. He says, I hope Nika doesn't foul out this game. I think she's going to be very important in keeping Olson under control. Well, she did pretty good keeping Olson under control, like UConn normally does with every single player, every single team that they play. The leading scorer for that team usually does not get to their season averages or even close for as far as that goes. But Nika definitely didn't foul out tonight. Had a definitely a lot better game than what she did for the Notre Dame game. I know she was really disappointed. I know the whole team was after that performance, but I know Nika felt like she kind of let the team down there, fouling out. But definitely a lot better performance tonight from her. And I would say from most of the team as well tonight. Definitely, I'll call it a good a good bounce back win for UConn. Of course, two more Big East opponents still to go before the big South Carolina game. But like I said, we'll be back. No last check-in for the St. John's game, but we will be back later Saturday night to recap the St. John's game as UConn travels back home to face the Red Storm. But that's it for me tonight. Final score 81-60 in favor of UConn tonight as they get a bounce back win versus Villanova. And I will sign out for tonight. Like I said, I will see you guys Saturday night for the St. John's recap.